Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Shiva Ayadure. Hope you're well. I'm going to be sharing with you a study that I did, a pilot study, which I shared some of it yesterday, but I thought it would be good to redo it again today because I think sometimes these kinds of things, when they're rushed, it's not as good. So I wanted to go into it very detailed on the pilot study revealing that over 200,000 mail ballots in Maricopa, which had mismatched signatures, that's what revealed in the study, were counted and weren't fully reviewed. A full review is also noted as something called curing. Okay, so that's what we're going to go over today. So we'll wait for people to join, and that's what we're going to discuss today. So again, let me bring up the title of the talk today. As you can see, it's called Irreconcilable Differences. Over 200,000 mail ballots with mismatched signatures counted without being reviewed, which means cured. And you're going to understand what that terminology means in Maricopa. And this is the first study, to the best of our knowledge, to calculate signature matching rates to provide a quantitative framework for assessing signature verification of mail ballots. The whole area of mail-in ballots obviously has become a very controversial area. It's split up the country. There's a lot of division. But one of the aspects of mail ballots that you're going to learn shortly is the aspect of verifying signatures. And we're going to discuss that. So today you're going to learn about signature verification. We're going to go over the results that took place in the 2020 election in Maricopa, how they verified signatures, what results they had. Then we're going to share with you two important experiments that we did where we got novices to do the same exercise of having side-by-side signatures and them telling us whether the signatures matched or not from the same person. And similarly, we did the same thing with what we call experts, forensic document examiners, FDEs. They did the same thing. And in the last part of it, I'm going to talk about how we combined both results, contrasted them, but also pooled them together to come up with the most conservative signature mismatch rate. And we're going to go over that. And that mismatch rate came to 12%. And when you multiply the 12% by all the signatures, early voting ballots that came in, our analysis shows that over 200,000 ballots had signature mismatches, and they should have gone through this full review process called curing. In Maricopa, however, only 250,000 ballots were cured. Okay? And our intention in doing this is to provide a scientific study so we could educate people, and we hope that the election officials in Maricopa will engage in a discourse and discussion. But this study is being delivered to the Arizona Senate as well as the Attorney General. It was commissioned by the Arizona Senate for me to do. So let me just jump right into it. And I want to welcome everyone for joining us. So let me go right into it. By the way, this is Dr. Shiva Ayadure. We completed the study on January 14th. We presented it to the Arizona Senate liaison on January 16th. We did the final report a few days ago, and we did a public presentation recently, but I thought it'd be better to do it again. I did it from home at the time, and I thought it'd be better to do it a little more formally because of the importance of this. Okay, so let me go right into this. By the way, notice it's a pilot study. A pilot study is typically done where we have an idea, an inkling in science, something's happening, so we want to explore it. But we go into it, obviously, with a hypothesis, okay? So by the way, if you want to know more about me, it's all in there. My background is in engineering systems, over 40 years of work and 40 plus years in pattern analysis. And all of that stuff is in here. If you want to go to vashiva.com, if you want to know more about my background, please do that. But this publication is a publication of the Election Systems Integrity Institute. It's a newly launched institute, ESII, and we're dedicated to providing independent research and infrastructure. So those of you who are interested in doing audits or want to learn please go check out the Institute. And it's really to support election systems integrity. And this publication documents the work completed by EchoMail, which was commissioned by the Arizona State Senate to perform the work in this study. So we have various items we're going to cover today. We're going to go through a quick executive summary, a background, the methodology that was used, experiment 1, experiment 2, the combined analysis of novices and experts. We're going to do that, and then we're going to have a discussion, and then we're going to go to conclusions, okay? So here are the executive summary. First is this is a first study to calculate signature matching rates and to provide a quantitative framework for assessing signature verification of early voting mail ballots, EVBs. I'm going to use that acronym. In Maricopa, there were 1,911,918 early voting mail ballots that were received and counted. And the county reported no more than 25,000 of these ballots, 1.31%, had signature mismatches and required review and curing to resolve those signatures to see if there were indeed mismatches. Now, our pilot study recruited 3 novices and 3 experts, forensic document examiners, to calculate signature matching rates on the same sample of 499 EVB envelopes. So we took a sample, and we'll explain that. And the purpose of this pilot study is to determine if results warrant any further investigation. And all 6 reviewers who were presented images of EVB envelopes evaluate if the signature on those envelopes match with the genuine signatures on file. Concurred 60 of those 499. So all 6 agreed that they were all mismatches, and they did it all independently. So that would be a 12% mismatch rate. Maricopa's was 1.3%. Now, based on the study, over 200,000 early voting ballots should have been cured versus at most a 25,000 that the county actually cured. And though this pilot study is compelling on its own, we believe an expanded study is warranted. Okay? So let's go to the background. What is signature verification? Again, to quickly review this for those of you who are new. And by the way, I didn't know what a lot of this was until I got involved in this. So we're all in the same boat. I'm just about a year and a half ahead of you. But signature verification is a multi-step process aimed to verify signature based on review of 2 signatures side by side, one being genuine, the other being questionable. And what happens is early mail ballot envelopes come into a central facility. They're scanned to create these envelope images, okay? And those are the early voting ballot envelopes are scanned to produce images. Then what happens in step 1, an initial review is done. It's about 4 to 30 seconds using the county's procedures. Reviewer compares signature on envelope with genuine signatures on file to determine match or mismatch. So they say, oh, does this match this? Okay. And by the way, the people are trained in this in a very short period of time to do this. It's novices who do this. And then if it is a no match, it goes to curing. So all these ballots come in, the 1.9 million plus, and the ones that are, if the people here say they don't match, that goes into curing, which means more detailed review. If they match, the envelope is open and is sent for tabulation. When it's cured, curing means it takes more than just 4 seconds to 30 seconds. By the way, initial review is only 4 to 30 seconds. Curing is 3+ minutes, and the investigation includes attempts to contact voter to determine if the signature is indeed a match or no match, okay? So, and after curing, if it's confirmed as a no match, then the ballot's not counted. If it's confirmed as a match, then it's sent for tabulation, okay? So basically the voters got 2 shots, one at the initial reviewing and one during curing. Curing was set up really for fairness. So now in Maricopa County, let's look at what they actually did. There were 1 million, let me just edit this right here. This is an error. There were 1,911,000. Let's go back to this. Sorry about that. Let me bring this back to everyone. There's a slight error I noticed, and I don't like those errors. Let me bring it back. So there's actually 1,911,918, okay, early voting ballots, as we said, mail-in ballots. The county said a maximum number of 25,000 were cured, and which is 1.31%. The confirmed signature mismatches, where EVBs were not counted, according to the county, were 587 out of those 25,000. So if you compare the 587 to 25,000, that would be 2.3%. But if you compare the 587 net, which was not counted, that would be 0.031%, 3/100ths of 1%. All right. So what did we do? So what we did, our team at ESII in our research institute, we put forward a methodology, which I'm going to walk you through. And we did 2 experiments. Let me go right to that. So the methodology we did here was the following. First, we selected a representative statistical sample from population of 1,911,918 early voting mail ballots. And we have those here at EchoMail had them, to be specific. And the confidence level of these were 95% we wanted to do. We wanted to select a sample size where we could have 95% confidence with a plus or minus 4.4% margin of error. So out of those, all these millions of ballots, we selected 499 randomly. And to give you an idea in statistics, you don't have to select all of them. You just have to do a random sampling. This is how pollsters work. So again, this is a pilot study. We could do a much larger study. But even at this level of selection, we're at 95% confidence with a plus or minus 4.4% error, okay? So we selected a random sample of 499. That was the first part. And then we organized a data set of 499 envelope signatures by randomly sampling that 1.9 plus million EVB envelope images repository we had, okay? So these are, for example, the signatures from those envelopes, all right? Step 3 was we created a data set of the 499 genuine signatures that match names and addresses of the 499 envelope signatures, okay? Now, how did we do that? Well, we sourced from the Maricopa publicly accessible deeds repository. We extracted 499 deed signatures. Now, it should be noted that the source of the genuine signatures used in this study are likely different from the source of genuine signatures used by the county. They typically use voter registration signatures or from the DMV. However, experts in forensic document examination share that signatures from a deeds repository, which is what we did, may likely be more valid given such signatures are notarized, okay? So the county, by the way, if they're listening, wish to provide their genuine signatures for these 499 samples, the study can be updated. So we're willing to do that. Now, the step 4 was we create pairwise data sets of the 499 envelope signatures and the 499 genuine signatures. Here are the signatures from the deeds repository, and here's a signature right off the envelope. And what we asked the reviewers to do was they're supposed to look at these and decide if this is a match or a no match. That's simple, okay? And they can only spend maximum of 30 seconds, 4 to 30 seconds in doing this. And that's typically what's allowed in the initial review process. Now, let's go to experiment 1. We use novices here. We use 3 novices. So the novices were instructed to follow the county's guide. So they went through it, reviewed it. In fact, I was one of them, okay? I was one among the 3. And the 3 non-FDs selected and instructed to follow the county's guide. We presented 499 pairwise signatures, no more than 30 seconds. And everyone was recorded for their match or non-match selections. And each of the non-FDs mismatch rate was calculated, as well as what we call the pooled consensus mismatch rate. So one is each FD's mismatch rate, but then we looked at all these 3 people, and we said, how many signatures did they all agree were mismatches? And that's called pooled consensus, all right? So on the x-axis are the signatures, because they're going from signature 0 all the way to signature 499. And you can see over time how their signature mismatch rates are converging down to here. And you can see we also averaged all of them, and this average came to 20.1%, okay? So 20.1% was the average of the mismatch rates when you look at all the 3 non-FDs, the novices. And this is another way of looking at it. So you notice 86 out of 413 were no match for this non-FD and so on. These 2 guys were very close, but the total signature mismatch rate by the novices average is 20.1%. Remember, the counties was only 1.3%. Okay, so just think about the counties was only 1.3%. All right. Then we did a pooled consensus. This means how many times did all three non-FDs, novices, for a pair of signatures conclude it was a match, a no match, or did not have agreement. And that's what this looks like. So you can see the saffron here is non-matched. The blue is how many times they matched. And the gray is when, one guy matched, but two others didn't, okay? Because there's three people here. And you can notice here, 63 out of 499 were when all three people, all three non-FDs agreed that those signatures on those ballots were mismatches. So that would mean, if you use this number, that the non-FD pooled consensus signature mismatch rate is 12.6%. Again, that's close to almost 10 times higher than the Maricopa County signature mismatch rate. Okay? So again, these are the novices. So in conclusion, from the first experiment, what we see is nearly 240,902 EVB should have been cured. Okay? 240,902. So remember, this was the original. The county had 1.3%, 25,000. If we use the average mismatch rate for the novices, this study reveals that 384,295 should have been cured. But if you take even the more conservative one, where we only assume the pooled consensus, that would be 240,902, okay? The pooled consensus mismatch rate, okay? Now let's go to experiment 2. So let me just jump in here. So the first experiment is the experiment where we did novices, non-forensic document examiners. Now we're going to look at how did the experts do it. And these are experts who are hired by courts to look at signatures to determine if they do forensics on them. So we hired 3 of those, and they helped us, okay? So let's go here. So this is experiment 2. We brought in experts. Again, the experts were given 3 of them, 499 signature pairwise images. They had to say it was a match or no match. Again, we calculated their mismatch rates and their average mismatch rates among all 3 of them. And then we also looked at their pooled consensus mismatch rates. So again, x-axis, number of signatures going from left to right. They're processing them. And you can see that these 2 FDs converge, and this FD is a little bit off, but meaning away from the 3, but they're far higher than the novices. So they were, when you average them, at 60.3%. And then when you, again, here are the numbers that you can see. They're pretty close. One of them, the first and the third, are above 60. The middle one is at, 40 plus. But regardless, among the forensic document examiners, they said that 60.3% of the signatures mismatched. And the Maricopa said only 1.3%. Obviously, the forensic document examiners have a much higher standard than the criteria that the non-FDs were asked to follow. Again, just to remind you, now we did the pooled consensus, which means we looked at the FDs and said, how many of the signature pairs did they both conclude were a match, or all 3, or they all concluded was no match, or where they all had disagreements? And this is what you see. So you can see, obviously, they had far more mismatches, 195 out of nearly the 499 they said were mismatches. They had 97 only where they matched, okay? And the rest they disagreed. But regardless, what you would find is that this means the pooled consensus signature mismatch rate is 39.1%. Again, far less than the percentage of Maricopa signature mismatch rates. Again, this is the pooled consensus of the 3 FDs. So if you use that pooled consensus number, you find out that 747,560 EVB should have been cured, okay? And what you see here is, again, comparing it to Maricopa, 1.31%. If you look at the high rate, if you look at the average rate, 60.3%, or 1,152,887 ballots should have been cured if you use the average. But if you use a more conservative number of 39.1%, where they all agreed on common signature mismatches, that means 747,560 should have been cured, okay? So there you go. You have two very different numbers. So if you look at the novices, they're saying around 240,000. If you're looking at the experts minimum, they're saying around 740,000. But this is far more than the 25,000 which Maricopa cured. So that's the main takeaway from this part so far. Now what we're going to do is we're going to now do an exercise where we look at bringing together the novices and the experts, okay? And what would we get there? So let's go there. So combine analysis of novices and experts, novices meaning the non-FDs, experts meaning the forensic document examiners. Okay, so again, this is all 6. So the bottom here, right here are the 3 novices, so where our mismatch rates are very low. The experts are here, they're much higher, as you can see. And then we did the average of all the experts, which is the saffron, they're at 60.3%. The average of the non-experts or the novices, 20.1. But then if you average everyone together, that's 40.2%, which means the novices and the experts are saying, if you pulled them all together, that 40.2%. You can look at each individual FDs and the average we have here. But again, 40.2% is also still higher than the Maricopa signature mismatch rate. My intention in doing this was to look at this problem in different ways. One is just the novices, but novices average, novices pooled. Then just the experts, their average and their pooled. And then put them all together. And that's what we have here. The average of everyone put together, you can see, is 40.2%, still far higher than the 1.3%. The next thing that I wanted to do was to say, if I brought all of the experts and novices together and we looked at which ones how many of the ballots signatures do they have commonality of agreements, okay? And that led to this bar chart. So the x-axis here is how many reviewers all agreed to a number of EVBs being mismatched, common mismatches. So let me explain. So this means none of the reviewers agreed that 97 of the ballots were mismatches, which means all of these were matches, which means all agreed these signatures match. And so that was 6 agreeing, all 97 signatures matches. And just to show you that when they do match, here are the examples of some of those signature matches. So again, all 6 people, novices and experts, agreed this signature and this signature match. And they look pretty similar. And again, here's another one. 3 novices and 3 experts agree that they both match. 3 novices and 3 experts agree these 2 match. Same here. That 3 novices and experts, these 2 match, and also with this 5th example here. So those are examples of where novices and experts have both agreed these signatures match. And there were 97 of those, okay? But we're interested in the mismatch rate, okay? So now we want to look at this analysis here, which is a right bar here, where all 6 reviewers, how many times did they agree the ballot signatures together pairwise did not match? And those were 60 signatures. So that's what the 60 is, where all 3 non-FDs and FDs agreed that they did not match, okay? So signature mismatches, okay? All 3 novices and 3 experts. So what do we have here? We have the examples of this, okay, where 3 novices and experts agree they do not match. So this and this do not match, okay? This and this do not match. All 3 novice and expert agreed. And you can see they're pretty clear they don't match, okay? Same here. Very different slant, very different writing, and same here. So those are examples of where now we have 60 examples of where the novices and the experts agree that out of the 499, they don't match. So that's called the pooled consensus signature matching rate among the common mismatch of novice and experts. So what is that? Well, if you look at this, it's this, again, the saffron sliver here, 12.0%. So 60 of the 499, as some of the examples we just shared with you, where both parties agree they don't match, okay? So that's 12% pooled signature mismatch rate. And look at that, that's still much higher than the 1.3%, all right? But if you use a 12% number, you find out that 229,430 EVBs should have been cured. Okay? So again, comparing it to Maricopa, which is 25,000 at 1.31%, if you use the pooled mismatch rate of 12%, which would be the most conservative, you get 229,430. If you use the little more non-conservative, if you look at the average mismatch rate among all 6, you would still get 768,591. Okay? So that's what you would get with that number. Okay? It's significantly higher. Okay? When you pool everyone together. All right? And so let's go here. All right? And let's have a discussion now. So, in conclusion, as we're wrapping this up, the intention of this pilot study was exploratory. We're not here accusing anyone. We literally wanted to recreate how signature verification is going on. And by the way, the study has not been done. It's quite amazing that has not been done. We're the first to do this study at the Election Systems Integrity Institute, which has published the work that EchoMail did. But these are the conclusions. What we find is that of all of these early voting mail-in ballots, again, 1.3%, 25,000 what was cured. And out of all of these, only 0.031% were confirmed to be mismatches post-curing. That was only 587 signatures. So just to let you know, only 587 signatures out of that 1.91 million were finally confirmed to be mismatched, and 25,000 initially before we went through curing was considered to be mismatches. So what we wanted to do was now look at different scenarios because we presented a lot of scenarios here. So if you look at this is all the possible scenarios. So the first scenario is, imagine if we use the novice's average rate, mismatch rate. That would have been 20.1%, and this says 384,295 should have been cured. And if you apply the 2.3% to this, that means 8,839 ballots should not have been allowed after curing. If you use the non-FDs, novices pool consensus, would be 12.6%, and that would come down to 240,902, in which case 5,541 ballots should have been disallowed. If you look at the average of the experts, they had a much higher mismatch rate, 60.3%. In that case, 1,052,884 should have been cured, which means 26,516 would have been disallowed. If you used the pooled consensus rate, which means where all the FDEs agreed to the same common set of signatures not matching, that would have been 747,560, which would have meant 17,194 ballots should have been disallowed. Now, the last piece is we are averaging, we're combining novices and experts. And if you use the average rate, that would have been 40.2%. As we mentioned, that would have been 768,591 ballots should have been cured, which means 17,678 should have been disallowed. If we use the most conservative number here, which is all 6 people agreeing that a certain set of signatures did not match, which was those 60, it would have been 12%, which would still have been 229,430 ballots should have been cured, which meant 5,277 ballots should have been not allowed, about 10 times more than what were allowed. Okay? Now, obviously, this was a very, very close race. We're not saying that this would have affected the outcome, but the point is that the signature matching rates that we're discovering are 10x higher mismatching rates than what the county had. Okay? And then final conclusion here. So it really is this takeaway. If you take the most conservative, people can say, well, I don't agree with this. 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 We're giving people literally, 6 different choices. So if you take even the most one, give the county the benefit of the doubt, it would be 12%. Okay. So at the net of it, as a result show, minimum of 229,430 plus or minus 4%. Remember, that's our margin of error, should have been cured. Now, if we subtract the 25,000 county did cure, you would get down to 204,430 plus or minus 4%. That's why we said more than over 200,000. All right. So that's what we have. Now, the final conclusions of this study, and by the way, I encourage everyone to go review this video. I know I've covered a lot here, but this video aims to be educational, but it is a detailed study, okay, that goes into the detailed analysis of this, okay? And the reason we did this is that it's important to recognize that the election integrity movement really needs to take a scientific systems approach. Unfortunately, there's been a lot of grifters who jumped into this movement, and they've been taking advantage of people. So we started the Institute because those in power have created institutes at Harvard, at MIT, at Stanford. And these are really, really very smart academics who believe that there is no problem, okay? That there are no problems, okay? So what we are sharing here is we took a very, very detailed systems approach, and we're not here to hype anything. We want to invite people to have a discourse, okay? And so that's why we did this, and we want to encourage everyone who's interested in that approach to study system science. We offer a course on system science. You can go to vashiva.com/join. But I encourage everyone to take a systems approach. We live in a world where there's the left approach or the right approach or the pro approach or the anti approach. But ultimately, what a systems approach reveals is that you need to apply the scientific method. We go into it like we did with this study. It's a pilot study, okay? We weren't aware what was going to happen. We did the analysis, and we may do an extended study. So let me finish up with the conclusions. This is the first study to quantify the signature mismatching rates during signature verification of EVBs. Again, in Maricopa, over 1.9 million voting ballots were received and counted. The county reported no more than 25,000 of these ballots had signature mismatches and required curing. A pilot study, as we said, recruited 3 novices and 3 experts to calculate the signature matching rates, okay? On the sample of the 499 EVBs. All 6 reviewers were presented the EVB envelopes to evaluate. And what we found out was all 6 reviewers in this pilot study concurred. 60 of the 499, 12%, as signature mismatches. Now, based on the study, over 200,000 early voting ballots should have been cured at most, versus at most of 25,000 county did. Now, we want to be humble about this. While the study is compelling, an expanded study is warranted, confirm the findings of this study, okay? And that's really the scientific approach. Again, the title of the study is Irreconcilable Differences, over 200,000 mail ballots with mismatched signatures counted without being reviewed, cured in Maricopa. First study to calculate signature matching rates to provide a quantitative framework for assessing signature verification of mail ballots. All right, I hope that helps people. I hope this was educational. Hey, John, I'm about to run out of my battery. Can you plug me in? Thanks. Thank you, John. Let's look at some of the comments. Someone says, hi, Dr. Shiva, can I get in touch with you regarding antiviral and removing heavy metals? Sure. You can send me an email at vashiva@vashiva.com. Someone else sends another question that says, I think the paper ballots should have been watermarked an official page. We've seen all the fraud. Yeah. So look, the real issue here is that we did the ballot image analysis, and we showed at ESII, if we'd done that way before, we could have done this audit for pennies, okay? The grifters who did not want to give us a ballot images, which is really unfortunate. I'm not sure why they did that, but the only conclusion you can reach is they wanted to do this paper ballot for 9-10 months, when if they use a ballot image, they could have discovered this stuff very quickly. All right, what we discovered here is that you have to go way upstream in the process, even as the ballots are coming in, and the signature verification has some weaknesses, as we're showing here, okay? All right, I hope this is valuable. We will be putting this up shortly on vashiva.com. I wish you well. Be well. Thank you.